This is the MOPAR 300 from Race City Motorsports Park in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where the top late model stock car teams from across Canada will duke it out for over $120,000 and points towards the CASCAR National Championship. This is the CASCAR Castrol Super Series on Speed Vision. Hello everyone, I'm Pat Gonzalez, and we're out west for the first of 4 races that'll count towards the CASCAR National Championship. Just to clarify, this CASCAR series is really 3 series in one. First, the Western Championship, where number 79, Wade Lee, has a nice lead after 5 races. The CASCAR Eastern Championship sees Dave Whitlock just 2 points ahead of Ron Beauchamp Jr. And our race here today at Calgary's Race City Motorsport Park is the first of 4 events that'll count towards the CASCAR national title. After our event here today, it'll be on up into northern Alberta for the run on the Edmonton City Centre Airport Road Circuit. Then later in the season, we'll be back in Ontario for the race on the road course at Mosport, and then our 4th and final national event will be at Delaware Speedway Park on the oval there. 4 races, Craig. It all starts here today. Who's got the advantage?
Well, Pat, you know, you're right about one thing, and only one thing, and that's the fact that it's a level playing field going into this race today in terms of points. But the paper should read Advantage West. These guys are experienced at this racetrack. Several of the teams from the West came out of the trailer. They've been fast for the last couple of days, real fast. But, you know, it's for some reason or other, no Western team has won this race. And I think that the Eastern guys are just too strong over 300-lap races. I think they've learned how to pace themselves in the East. I think they've learned how to take care of their cars and be strong at the checkered flag. I think that the Western guys have got to cope with that. But, you know, after what I saw in qualifying, boy, that could all change here today, Pat.
Well, qualifying began with time trials where defending national champion Dave Whitlock set the early quick lap at 18.200 seconds in his Ford Taurus. But the next car up on the speedway to qualify was number 46, Dan Shirley, and he shattered the qualifying record with a run at 18.074 seconds. Later in the session, number 27, John Gaunt in the Centennial Dodge, and Dan Shirtliff, who won this race back in 1996, were able to turn quicker qualifying laps. That pushed Dave Whitlock to 4th. So our Mopar Fast 4 looks like this.
Up front, it's the school teacher, Dan Shirley, in a Chevy with a new track record. Beside him in the Centennial Dodge is John Gaunt. Next up, a past winner here in Calgary, Dan Shirtliff. And then it's Dave Whitlock, part of Team Taurus, who is just 0.124 seconds behind Dan Shirley.
And earlier in the first of 2 100-lap heat races, number 79, Wade Lee of Calgary in the Pontiac Grand Prix, and 46, Dan Shirley in a Chevy swapped the lead, with Dan Shirley grabbing the win and the national points.
In the second 100-lapper, John Gaunt was the early leader, followed by Sean Dupuis and Pete Gibbons. But then Gibbons, in the number 1 Canadian Tire Chevy, moved around Gaunt to take the checkered flag.
So with their wins, Pete Gibbons and Dan Shirley each pick up 162 national championship points. And we'll be back with more of the Mopar 300 from Calgary right after this. You're watching the Castrol Super Series and the Mopar 300, brought to you by Mopar Performance Parts. STP, get your car into STP shape. And by UAP Napa Auto Parts, the right brand for the job.
And Pat, they're just about ready to start this 300-lap race, and here's Roy Westlake from Chrysler.
If you would please. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine.
And the engines are fired on these 35 CASCAR late model stock cars as we look at DJ Kennington in the Castrol Dodge. He'll carry one of our onboard cameras, as will Ron Beauchamp Jr. The car's starting to roll here on the front straightaway behind the Dodge Intrepid pace car, as it is certainly a gorgeous afternoon here in Calgary. As we look at the front row, there's Dan Shirley, new qualifying record. Johnny Gaunt to his outside. Gibbons and Dupuis will start in row 2. Back in the 3rd row, Billy Rouse Jr. and Neil Fair, who's had some great runs this year. Row 4, Ron Beauchamp Jr. and defending national champion Dave Whitlock. A couple of veterans in Dan Shurtleff and Jack Monahan make up row 5. And then in row 6, Dave Jacobs and Don Thompson Jr. in the Chevy Monte Carlo. Row 7, Alex Nagy and Robin Buck in the Pontiac Grand Prix. Row number 8 has Steve Jefferson, one of the top qualifying Western drivers, and Rob Neely in the Dodge. Kelly Williams starts back in the 9th row along with John Fitzpatrick. And then in row number 10, it's the 16-year-old rookie Daryl Haar and 02 Kerry Mix. There's a look at the rest of the starting grid. Disappointing efforts by Kevin Dowler and Wade Lee, all the way back in 26th and 27th starting positions. And then as we look at the last couple of rows, DJ Kennington, 35th starter after having problems in time trials and missed his 100-lap qualifier.
And there's the Ford race analysis, Pat, with over $120,000 on the line. They'll go 300 laps on this half-mile bank track, and boy, what a great day this has turned out to be.
And this will be a big payday for these Eastern and Western drivers as Sean Dupuis waves to the crowd from his 4th starting position. Let's go to Todd Lewis.
Eastern drivers don't know this track as well as the Western drivers do. They say it's a lot like Peterborough, where you're constantly turning the wheel. For the Western drivers, they're not used to running 300 laps. With today's heat, that could be a factor. They're also not used to working with a 35-car field. For the Western teams to be successful today, they'll have to learn how to work that traffic.
Well, one thing about this Calgary track, as far as traffic is concerned, Pat, is that it's very wide. As a matter of fact, the drivers talk about it being 2.5 lanes of racing out there.
They use 2 lanes of traffic as they come off at turn number 4 and get the green flag from Don Belcher of Chrysler Canada, their regional parts manager in Western Canada. And there's Steve Jefferson. He's looped it around in turn number 4. Will get it turned around and stay on the lead lap, and we stay under green as Dan Shirley and Johnny Gott in the 27 car battle back to the line. They were just side by side into turn 1. It's 27 Gott up on the high side of the racetrack. He will grab the lead and come up here to put number 5, Steve Jefferson, a lap down. Shirley in the 46 car running in that 2nd place position. The 43 STP Ford of Sean Dupuis is 3rd. So we've got a Dodge running up front, a Chevy in 2nd, a Ford running 3rd, and Steve Jefferson goes a lap down here early. It'll be very difficult for Jefferson to get that lap back.
Well, it'll be real difficult, Pat, because the car's very loose right now. He's going to have to get into the pits sooner or later and make an adjustment on that thing. He'll never be able to run 300 laps the way it is.
We look at the battle here for 3rd, Craig, as we rode on board there for a moment with that number 43 car of Sean Dupuis. Now we look at the battle on the racetrack. Closing on Sean Dupuis is the number 1 car of Pete Gibbons, who runs in the 4th place spot. Up front, it is the 27 car of John Gott, your race leader, our 2nd fastest man in time trials. And now a little bit further back, we look at the battle here between Dan Shurtleff and 66 Robin Buck.
Steve Jefferson, the number 5 car, putting wedge into it. An early pit stop after a spin off the start.
Well, I said earlier, Pat, that the car was very loose, and boy, did they have to put a couple of winds of wedge into that thing to try to get some handling back in it.
Well, we look at the battle for 4th here involving Pete Gibbons in the number 1 Canadian Tire Chevy in 55. Neil Fair, who works the low side of the racetrack. Pete Gibbons up in that 2nd lane, and they continue to fight it out for 4th. Here's the battle up front. 27, John Gott, your race leader. 46, Dan Shirley right behind him, and now the 43 car of Sean Dupuis has closed up, and it's still that side-by-side battle as Fair now goes underneath of the 1 car of Pete Gibbons to move up into 4th. Gibbons gets shuffled back to 5th, and you saw that little cloud of dust. That was 46. Dan Shirley putting the inside wheels of the car off the pavement and down into the dirt, but it has not slowed him at all. He is still involved in this great battle for the lead. It's Gott, Shirley, and then Dupuis.
Well, Pat, we talked earlier about the big paycheck here today, over $120,000, but what is kind of interesting, and especially for the drivers, is a $25,000 cash award that's been set up by Dana Canada. The award will be paid to any driver competing for the national championship title who wins 3 of the 4 national races.
We look at our UAP Napa field summary. There you see the rundown. Defending national champion Dave Whitlock in 7th. Robin Buck, who we saw there for a moment, being shown in the 12th place spot.
And Kelly Williams in the 17th here at the moment, but the racing up front is superb. In fact, we've got a 6-car freight train battling for the lead as you ride on board with Sean Dupuis, that bumper cam looking back to the 4th place car of 55 Neil Fair. So it is 27 Gaunt, your leader, 46 Shirley in the 2nd place position, and that is Dan Shirley out in front of Sean Dupuis, your 3rd place car. Then 55 Fair in 4th. The number 1 car of Pete Gibbons is 5th. And in 6th is that 52 car of Billy Rouse Jr. They're already into lap traffic here as the number 7 car of James McFarland about to go a lap down. A little bit further back, we look at the battle here between the 0-3 of Jack Monahan and number 41, Don Thompson Jr. as they duke it out for 9th spot. Don Thompson Jr. having to change his number from 4 to 41.
Well, Pat, the Monahan team suffered an early loss in Calgary when one of their key crew members, Ron Hall, had a freak accident. He seriously broke his leg while taking part in the pit stop competition downtown and has had to have surgery. And boy, that's a big blow to Jack and the Chrysler 5-star team, I'll tell you that right now.
Ron Hall, the crew chief on that 0-3 car, and of course he will be missed as we look at Dave Whitlock as he continues to run well inside the top 10. Up front, the battle continues. 27, John Gaunt, your leader. 46, Dan Shirley in 2nd.
And Pat, you talked about Dave Whitlock earlier there. Whitlock is one of those very patient drivers. He relies upon a strong pit crew to get him in and out of the pits early, but boy, he knows how to have patience on a racetrack.
79, Wade Lee running 17th, followed by 16, Al Turner, and 35, Kevin Dowler. Here's Todd.
Kelly Williams in the number 31 GM Goodwrench car, a right rear tire problem. Crew goes to work. They've got a lug nut jammed in the gun now, and they're having problems changing that right rear tire.
Well, that's tough on Kelly because there's a green flag out there. She's going to go a lap down, and sometimes these lug nuts can be a problem, especially if it's a worn socket or a worn nut or something that allows it to turn in the socket wrench.
There's Wade Lee, number 79. He has come on a pit road as well, and it looks like they're changing the right side rubber on that car.
77 car Pete Vanderwist, a right rear tire problem. He's in. Crew gets it changed and on his way.
We look at the lead battle heating up one more time as 46, Dan Shirley around the outside of 27, John Gaunt. John's car working very well down on the bottom of the racetrack. Dan Shirley not afraid to go up high as these two drivers have been going at it since the green flag. It's been back and forth a couple of times, across start finish, back into turn 1, and now it'll be Shirley's turn to run at the front. 27, John Gaunt in 2nd. The 43 STP Ford Taurus of Sean Dupuis is 3rd. Then 55 now, Neil Fair up to 4th. 1 Pete Gibbons is 5th, and still the 52 car of Billy Rouse Jr. in 6th. Looking at a battle a little bit further back, 88 is Dave Jacobs, 66 is Robin Buck. That is the race for 13 as they run side by side into the turn. That Midas car ahead of Robin Buck as you ride on board with him, fighting the steering wheel just a little bit coming off of that turn. That is Rob Neely in the number 97 Dodge. Rob Neely, one of the real Ironmen of CASCAR. I believe this is his 99th consecutive CASCAR start as they run it into turn number 1. And that 97 car of Rob Neely running in the 12th place position. The battle behind Jacobs, 88, and 66 Buck.
Well, Robin Buck has added a new crew member, Warren Rowley, to help with the car setup for this race. Now, Rowley is an engineer and a suspension expert, and he worked with Trevor Siebert in the old GM series a few years back, Pat. So maybe they can get that car. Robin's working really good here.
Well, one of the aspects of his racing program that Robin felt they were a little behind some of the other front-running teams was being able to get to the setup real early. And having Rowley here work with the crew chief, Fraser Bull, they hope that they'll have a better handling race car. No, number 4, that is Daryl Haar. He has spun off the racetrack.
Well, that's going to bring out the first yellow of the day, Pat. Some will be heading for the pits. And there are the standings with current Western CASCAR champion Dan Shirley out front. And we'll have more late model stock car racing from Calgary, Alberta after this. We're back at Race City Speedway and the MOPAR 300 with a restart after the Darrell Haar spin, and it's been extremely clean racing right up to this point, Pat.
Craig, well, 300 laps is a long event, especially for these Western drivers who normally go 150 or 200 laps, but Dan Shirley has the muscle to pull out in front again as we look at the UAP Napa field summary. There you see Dave Whitlock inching his way up. He's being posted in 6th at the moment. And Dan Shurtleff up to 9th. Dan recently took part in a 2-day school at the Finish Line Racing School in hopes of just sharpening up his driving skills for the run at this national championship. And right now we ride on board with the 43 car of Sean Dupuis, who runs in 4th.
And if you listen closely, Pat, you can hear Sean just feathering the accelerator. He doesn't want to put the power down too quickly and bring the back end around. That makes the car very loose and very difficult to handle on this racetrack.
Well, he hangs right in there in the 4th place position. The 98 car of Dave Whitlock now has moved ahead of Neil Fair. Whitlock up into 5th. As we look at race leader Dan Shirley in car number 46. Let's go to Todd in the pits.
Andy Farr, has been a tough weekend, a long haul from Michigan. What's put you out?
Well, it looks like we blew up a transmission. The car started slowing down a little bit, and just as the leaders caught up to me, it jumped out of gear, and now it won't go. Now I can't get any gear, so I guess the guys are going to pull the transmission out and get those tools working, I suppose.
That'll finish it for Calgary, but on to Edmonton.
And of course, Edmonton will be the site of our second CASCAR national event. That'll be on the road course at the Edmonton City Centre Airport. Our 3rd stop back in Ontario at Mosport, and then we'll wrap up the national championship at Delaware Speedway. You go on board with Speedy Jack Monahan in the 03 car. He is involved in this race for that 9th place position, along with the number 3 car of Dan Shurtleff and the 88 of Dave Jacobs. And just ahead you see his fellow Mopar teammate. That is the 60 car of Ron Beauchamp Jr. So a great battle. Oh, and some contact as 03 Jack Monahan got into the back of number 3 Dan Shurtleff. There's 41 Don Thompson Jr. He is on the move up into the 6th place position, and up front 27 John Gott has challenged for the lead, and he will take the lead as he'll push 46 Dan Shirley back to 2nd. The number 1 car, Pete Gibbons, runs in 3rd. 43 Sean Dupuis is 4th, and number 98 Dave Whitlock is 5th.
Wade Lee in the number 79 Goodwrench car. They are changing right side tires again. This is his 2nd pit stop where they've changed both the right side tires.
Well, that's a bad break for Wade Lee. He's enjoyed a pretty good Western CASCAR series so far, Pat, and he leads the points out here. But he told me earlier that cut-down tires have cost him 2 races so far in 98.
Greg, we're looking at this great battle for 2nd involving 46 Dan Shirley and number 1 Pete Gibbons, who's given that 46 car a couple of little taps so far.
Well, that type of close racing you learn early in short track racing, Pat. It's telling the guy that you want through, and you got to kind of nudge him to the outside.
Neil Fair in the 55 car brings it along pit road. He was battling for the lead on that restart, got shuffled back. He's cut down a right front tire.
Tough break for Neil Fair, who ran up as high as 2nd, but this pit stop under green is going to cost him some laps. Here is the battle for that 2nd place position. Pete Gibbons in the number 2 spot. Dan Shirley will get shuffled back into 4th as he's hung up on the outside, and going underneath will be 98 Dave Whitlock to take over 4th.
Well, Dan's fading kind of quick out there, Pat. I just wonder if he might have tire trouble also.
Greg, we look at this great battle here for that 2nd place position. Pete Gibbons in the Canadian Tire Chevy. There's Dan Shirley. He runs in 5th. And number 27, John Gott, caught up behind 55 Neil Fair, who had just gone back onto the racetrack. And here is number 1, Gibbons will take the lead around the outside. 43, Sean Dupuis into 2nd. So Gott may have a problem. And the 44 car of Fred Del Perro has spun very near the wall. This will bring out yet another caution flag, and 52 Billy Rouse Jr. hard into the side of the 17 car of DJ Kennington, and there is severe damage to the car here of Billy Rouse Jr.
Well, there's also a lot of fluid on the track from Bill Rouse's red. They'll have to clean that mess up, and here's Todd Lewis in the pits.
Number 46 Dan Shirley, the pole sitter, was battling for the lead. They think they have a right side tire down. A caution now. He'll be coming in to change those right side tires.
There's Dan Shirley about to head on to pit road, Craig.
Well, here's a look at the Mopar replay, and the report is, Pat, that Kerry Mix in the 02 checked up in front of Billy, putting him sideways and then into DJ Kennington. Boy, he's a little hot out there at the moment, I'll tell you.
Pole sitter Dan Shirley brings the number 46 car in along pit road. Tim Howlett and the rest of the crew go to work changing the right side tires and getting it full of fuel. Number 27, Johnny Gahn, also in along pit road. They are changing the right rear tire and he is fueled and gone. 55, Neil Fair makes a second stop, also for fuel and a right rear tire.
Lots of action on and off the track. So with defending Eastern CASCAR champion Gibbons leading the Mopar 300, we'll take a break. We're back with more Castrol Super Series action from Calgary and another restart on this fast half-mile oval.
Pete Gibbons, Craig, in that number 1 Canadian Tire Chevy takes the green flag from Lynn Church, and he'll lead the drivers through turns 1 and 2. 43 is Sean Dupuis in the Ford, running in that second place position, and they're about to put a lap on the 97 car here of Rob Neely.
Well, Pat, you talked earlier about Neely being an Ironman. For a young guy, Neely has had a variety of racing experiences, both in karting and midgets, and in fact, he ran with Tony Stewart while racing in karts.
Here you look on board, Pete Gibbons getting around that 97 car of Rob Neely, who works the low side of the racetrack. Neely battling back here to try to get back around the race leader, but he in fact will go another lap down as Pete Gibbons continues to run up front. 43, Sean Dupuis in the STP Ford in second. 98, Dave Whitlock is third. Jack Monahan now up into that fourth place position in the Dodge, and you ride along with Speedy Jack Monahan as he comes up on that 97 car of Rob Neely, who works the low side of the racetrack. Jack will go up into that second lane to get around the 97 car, and he closes on 98. Dave Whitlock and 27, John Gahn, hard into the wall going into turn number 3. He has demolished the front end of that race car, fluid all over the racetrack. Part of the tire wall strewn all over the pavement. Here's the safety crew getting to the driver. The window net has been lowered, so John Gahn apparently okay.
Well, here's the replay, Pat, and it looks like Gaunt got pushed up into the safety barrier that protects the concrete wall at the paddock exit by Darrell Haar, the 16-year-old rookie.
There is Darrell Haar. He may have got up into John Gahn, 27, and pushed him up to the outside. There's John Gahn. He does not look very happy.
Number 16, Al Turner, brings the Blue Streak car in. They are changing the left front tire. Number 98, David Whitlock, also brings his Ford car along the pit road with this caution after Johnny Gahn's crash.
Well, while they clean up, here's Pat with a Blue Streak feature.
One of the interesting features of these CASCAR late model stock cars are the bodies. Unlike most racing series, these bodies are made of fiberglass. Why? Because they're lighter, easier to replace or remove in the case of a pit stop. You can also replace them yourself and repair them as well. And a whole body, a complete body, consists of just 11 parts. So you only need to replace those damaged parts. So that's one way that CASCAR helps to keep its series affordable.
Unfortunately for Gaunt and the Centennial Dodge team, it's going to take more than body panels to repair the 27 entry. That car, boy, it looks pretty much of a write-off.
You just saw the running order as we go back to green. Number 1, Pete Gibbons getting the jump here, 66. Robin Buck in second, 43. Sean Dupuis dropping well back as Gibbons goes to the front. Dupuis in that 43 car has got some kind of a problem. He just continues to slide back as he's hung up on the outside of the racetrack. 88, Dave Jacobs up into third. Then the 02 of Kerry Mix running in fourth. So up front it is Pete Gibbons in that Canadian Tire Chevy, followed by Robin Buck, number 66, who has really carved his way through to the front. Battle here for third involving Kerry Mix. So as he gets into the back of 88 Jacobs, Mix down to the low side of the racetrack. Kevin Dowler, 35, also going through. And there is Sean Dupuis, 43. He may have a problem with that race car. He continues to drift up high in the corners. We look at the lead battle here between the Canadian Tire Chevy of Pete Gibbons and 66 Robin Buck in the UAP Napa Pontiac Grand Prix. And then behind them is the 02 of Kerry Mix in third, being pressured by 35 Kevin Dowler. Right now you ride on board with Robin Buck in that number 66 UAP Napa Pontiac Grand Prix as he tries to chase down Pete Gibbons in the Canadian Tire Chevy. And Dave Jacobs has brought it onto pit road. Let's go to Todd.
Dave Jacobs brings the 88 car into the pits. They're getting it full of fuel, but it looks like a problem with a cut-down tire.
Well, that has been a problem on a number of the cars here today. Dave Jacobs had run up as high as third. As we look at the race leader, Pete Gibbons in that number 1 Canadian Tire Chevy, back to the stripe. He continues to lead. This is the battle for fourth involving 43 Sean Dupuis and the 02 car of Kerry Mix. Oh, number 2, Carl Haar, just about got sideways there. He appears to be having an ill-handling race car as we look back to the 02 of Kerry Mix. Let's go to Todd in the pits.
Sean Dupuis and the number 43 STP car had a problem with his radio before they pulled away off the starting grid. Problems continued. Their spotter had difficulty with his radio. That's why Sean's dropped back a couple of spots.
That was Jim Rocheleau up high looking at his driver work around the racetrack. And here is that battle for the fourth place position. Heating up as 25. Jim Lapsevich has come up to join 43 Sean Dupuis and 02 Kerry Mix. So it's a three-way fight going on among those drivers as we look at the Inside Track Motorsport News midway update. There you see Lapsevich in 6, Dan Shirley up into that 7th place position. So he still very much is in the hunt for the win here this afternoon. And 02, Kerry Mix now. We'll see 25, Jimmy Lapsevich pull up alongside. A battle between the two Ford drivers, and 25 Lapsevich will pick off that 5th place position. Also working the low side of the racetrack is 46, Dan Shirley. He will move up into 6th, and that's going to push the 02 of Kerry Mix into 7th. Robin Buck in the 66 car still trying to chase down the leader, Pete Gibbons. Let's go to Todd.
John Gott, the 27 Centennial Chrysler car, first of all, after that hard hit. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. The car's just damaged beyond repairs for today, and we're supposed to go to Edmonton next weekend. I don't think this car can go. It'd be a miracle if it does. It's been up pretty bad.
Was that a hard as hit today as you had in Cayuga a couple of years ago?
No, he just rubbed off this wall. It was pretty good, actually. I'd like to commend him on the tires or the water that we hit down there. Sure softened the blow. I thought it was going to hit a lot harder than that, but it wasn't that hard. It felt good.
Softened the physical blow, but mental one tough. You won't be able to go to Edmonton next week.
Well, that's a tough break for John Gaunt, but Jim Lapsevich, he's running in 5th place at the moment in the 25 car. He also had a big crash here last year with Pete Vanderwees, but he's running well today. As a matter of fact, Pat, he's made his pit stop, and he should be able to go the distance on fuel.
There is Jim Lapsevich back to the start-finish line, being posted in the 5th place position. Behind him is Dan Shirley in the 46 car in the 6th place position. And now the 02 of Kerry Mix continues to have his problems. He is sliding backwards through the top 10. That is 14, John Fitzpatrick in the HMS Equipment, sponsored Monte Carlo, the teammate to Don Thompson Jr., and he's having a pretty good run. You ride on board here with Pete Gibbons in that number 1 Canadian Tire Chevy. He just put a lap there on number 20, Kim Richard. As Gibbons continues to run up front, he'll be spending the winter working on his Busch NASCAR program after he finishes up this CASCAR series. Let's go to Todd.
Kelly Williams in the number 31 car up on jack stands along pit road. She's made several trips in. This time it appears to be a bad oil filter. That appears to be where oil is leaking out underneath the car.
Kelly had a fine 6th place finish at our last race at Cayuga. As, number 4, that is Daryl Haar into the wall in turn 1. Along with a second car that's involved. That is number 20, Kim Richard. And this will bring out yet another caution flag here this afternoon. So the 16-year-old rookie, Daryl Haar, crashing along with the 20 of Kim Richard as he is going again. Here's number 1, Pete Gibbons, the race leader, will bring it onto pit road. Let's go to Todd Lewis in the pits.
Robin Buck in the number 66 UAB Napa car brings the car in. Looked like routine service, but slipped off the jack. Crew's still trying to get the right side tires on and get it full of fuel.
Robin has run a very strong 2nd place for much of this MOPAR 300 with this caution. There's a new leader, Jim Lapsevich. We'll be back with more MOPAR 300 racing right after this. This is the Castrol Super Series from Calgary, Alberta, as we get set for more green flag racing.
The lead lap cars up on the outside. There you see Jim Lapsevich getting a great jump off at turn 4 as he has opened up several car lengths over number 46, Dan Shirley, who's fighting for that 2nd place position. That 9 and 77 cars down at the bottom of the racetrack, they are not running on the lead lap. That's Stevie Smith in 77, Pete Vanderweest. There's 46, Dan Shirley in the AC Delco Monte Carlo. He runs in second. The third place car is number 3, Dan Shirtliff. Of course, Dan Shirley, our defending Western champion. He's had a win already this year. Currently sits 4th in the point standings in the Western Series, some 94 out of first place. So he is still very much in the hunt for the CASCAR Western Championship this year. Let's go to Todd Lewis in the pits.
Daryl Harr had his troubles out on the track. He's back in again under green flag. The crew's trying to tape down the right front fender. He's been involved in a number of incidents. Number 20, Kim Richard, he has right front damage, he has front end damage, and it appears the radiator has blown up on the car.
Well, young Darrell's been a big part of 2 major crashes today as we see Whitlock trying to get an inside move on Jack Monahan for 4th. And you know, the 16-year-old is on some kind of steep learning curve this afternoon, running with these seasoned veterans.
Well, this is his very first national championship event, Craig, but out here in the West, Daryl Harr currently sits 8th in the Western points, and he's well out in front in the rookie points race. Of course, back in the East, Derek Temeersma is leading the Eastern Rookie of the Year chase, and he actually is helping crew for 0-2 Kerry Mix.
Well, you know, Pat, they've got this new championship format that we've been talking about earlier. I think this is a great experience for young drivers to be able to race not only on the ovals, but to get on the road too, because if you're going to be a good race driver today, you got to do both.
Of course, our national championship here in CASCAR, consisting of the run here in Calgary, will be on up to Edmonton for the run on the Edmonton City Center Airport on the road course there, then on to Beausport, and finally Delaware. You ride on board with Pete Gibbons, who has worked his way back up into 8th place after coming on to pit road under that last caution period. Here's 43, Sean Dupuis, running in the 9th place position. He's right on the rear bumper of number 1, Pete Gibbons, as these two drivers battle for position. And just getting around the 9 car you saw there to the left, that was Stevie Smith, but he's not running on the lead lap. The battle for 4th continues. 98, Dave Whitlock working the low side of the racetrack off at turn number 2, and he'll get around Speedy Jack Monahan. He'll bring the 41 car of Don Thompson Jr., who will also pick up a spot. So Speedy Jack losing a couple of positions as both Whitlock in the 98 car, number 41, Don Thompson Jr. have moved ahead of Speedy Jack, who now finds himself in 6th.
And that's the Al Turner pit, and the crew looks really disappointed. Car builder Morris Piper telling Al to cut the engine. He and rookie driver Del Perro collided earlier, and Turner got the worst of it. The Blue Streak team, boy, Pat, they've had a tough 98 season so far.
Dave Whitlock all over Dan Shirtliff, and number 52, Billy Rouse Jr. smacks the wall hard in turn 1. We've got 4 other cars involved, including 66 Robin Buck, the 04 of Andy Farr, 44 Fred Del Perro is also involved in the incident, but look at the car of Billy Rouse Jr. He has really hit the wall hard. The driver is not moving inside of that race car, and Lynn Church will display a red flag as the safety crews get over there to the car of Billy Rouse Jr.
Maybe we can see what happened from the Mopar replay, Pat. Rouse on the outside has contact with Del Perro. Billy hits the wall hard, and then Buck, Andy Farr, and Rob Neely pile into Del Perro. And there's Buck in the pits, and Billy Rouse is still being attended to on the track. So it's going to take a while to clean this up. Let's take a break with the Syntec Tech Report.
The CASCAR teams combat the heat and humidity of racing in many ways. All of the teams will carry an insulated bottle full of cold water or some kind of a sport drink. But for Western driver Carl Harr, he's gone one step better with some technology right out of the U.S. Space Shuttle program. This cool box has an air scrubber that removes the carbon monoxide and then electronically cools the air by separating the hot air molecules from the cold air molecules. The hot air comes out of this vent, the cold air out of this vent, and is pumped by this hose into Carl's helmet. The price tag on this unit, some $7,000. Well, that's a small price to pay to keep a cool head during the heat of competition.
Well, Pat, I think Billy Rouse Jr. would like one of those cool boxes right now. Boy, he definitely had his bell rung with that crash, and he's probably still hurting from his earlier incident with Kerry Mix.
Pete Gibbons was stalled, but he gets a bump start from Neil Fair, and we'll have more racing after this.
Welcome back to the MOPAR 300 and more Castrol Super Series racing. There's the new order after the Billy Roush crash as pole sitter Dan Shirley leads.
Off of turn number 4, Dan Shirley will bring the field back to the line as they get the green flag from Lynn Church, 98, Dave Whitlock in second, the 41 car of Don Thompson Jr. third, and 33 Don Sales in fourth, and Pete Gibbons being shown in that fifth place position. There you see the margin of about 6 or 7 car lengths between the race leader, Dan Shirley, and the number 98 car of Dave Whitlock. The 16 car of Al Turner back out on the racetrack. Let's go to Todd.
Billy Roush in the number 52 car involved in a multiple car incident, went hard into the wall into turn 1. They transported him to hospital. He was conscious when he left the track, sustained neck injuries, but he should be okay.
Well, that is certainly good news as we look at Pete Gibbons, number 1, battling with the 33 car of Don Sales, and he will take over that fourth place position. We hope to see Billy Roush Jr. back behind the wheel of that car in Edmonton next weekend, but right now you ride on board with Pete Gibbons, who has taken over that fourth place position, and Sean Dupuis also getting around Don Sales to take over the fifth place spot. So the Western driver, Don Sales, who had run up as high as fourth, now being shuffled back a couple of positions as first, number 1, Gibbons, is able to get around, and then 43, Sean Dupuis, and now those two drivers going at it for that fourth place position. Dupuis down at the bottom of the racetrack as they come off at turn number 2. Gibbons up high, and Sean Dupuis in that number 43 car. That's the chassis that Dave Whitlock won this race a year ago driving, and of course went on to win the CASCAR National Championship. So it's a car that certainly has won here before, and Dupuis has moved up into that fourth place spot. Number 1, Pete Gibbons in fifth, and then 33 Sales is sixth. Let's go to Todd.
DJ Kennington, driver of the 17 Castrol Syntec car. A tough weekend for you here.
Yeah, it's been that way all weekend. We've had tough luck and motor troubles and everything else. So boys worked hard. They did all they could to get the car out there today, and we had a good day going today. We were staying on the lead lap and so on, and there was an altercation on the back straightaway there where we got together with Bill Roush Jr. and bent all the control arms and steering and so on. So we decided that's it for today, and we'll get her back in Edmonton and see what we can do with them there.
A lot of work to do before you go to Edmonton.
Well, Todd's right, because most of these teams will have to change their oval track car into a road racing car, and that requires a lot of man hours, Pat.
They estimate about 40 to 50 hours to put the car into road racing trim as we look at Don Thompson Jr. running in that third place position. He's had some great drives at the CASCAR Eastern Championship, and now number 1, Pete Gibbons in 43. Sean Dupuis have swapped around that fourth place position one more time. It's now Gibbons who has retaken fourth, Dupuis back to fifth, but they've been back and forth here for about the last 8 or 9 laps. The two drivers very equally matched.
And both very experienced, Pat. They trust each other. And there's Rob Neely, number 97. He's a couple of laps down. He's trying hard right now to stay in 14th spot.
Well, he'll stay in 14th spot, Craig, but he will go another lap down to race leader 46 Dan Shirley as he comes off at turn number 4 back to the line. We looked at the UAP Napa Field summary, and here's 66 Robin Buck. He is back in the pits. Looks like they're changing a right rear tire. Buck will try to get back out there to pick up maximum points.
And Pat, there's Kevin Dollar in the number 35 Ford Taurus. He's now up to 10th. He's up from 26th where he started this race.
There is Dan Shirley in the 46 car, your race leader, who started on the pole after that record run in qualifying. So the school teacher from Saskatoon giving the other CASCAR drivers here a driving lesson so far as he continues to run up front. And of course, this is a brand new race car they built for the 98 season after selling last year's chassis to Fred Del Perro. And Shirley was quick right out of the trailer, and he has been running up near the front for much of the afternoon. There you see the margin back to 98, Dave Whitlock in second.
Well, we'll go on board with Dave Whitlock and Dave's Taurus team. They'll run a third car with road racing specialist Scott Maxwell at the wheel when the National Series visit the road course at Mosport Park for the third CASCAR National Points race, Pat.
Craig, we've got the caution flag out once again. There is Lynn Church in the flagger stand.
Well, I think I just saw Dave Whitlock run over a spring in the corner, Pat, and that's got to be the reason for the caution.
Debris on the racetrack. Here is the spring that's now been bounced off the racing surface, and one of DJ Kennington's crew members will retrieve it.
Well, it's unusual for a spring to come loose like that, Pat, but it does happen sometimes.
There's 35 Kevin Dowler in, and they're going under the hood, and the report we get is damage to the front suspension. That's a tough break for a team that fought all the way from the back of the grid to be in contention.
This is the MOPAR 300 from Calgary's Race City Motorsport Park as we get set for the green flag with the lead lap cars lined up on the outside.
Well, they've shuffled the running order one more time here. After Kevin Dowler pitted, Pete Gibbons found his way around. Don Thompson for second. Mixes in fourth. Sean Dupuis fifth. As we go back to green, there is 46, Dan Shirley, your race leader. Pete Gibbons up on the outside. 66, Robin Buck is in there, but he is not running in third. At 41, Don Thompson Jr. gets into the side of Robin Buck. So it is 46, Dan Shirley, your race leader, followed by number 1, Pete Gibbons in the Canadian Tire Chevy. They run 1-2 off of turn number 2, heading down the back chute into turn 3. Let's go to Todd in the pits.
David Whitlock, the defending national champion and the defending champion of this race, he is hoping for a few more caution laps. The crew is crunching numbers. They don't know if they got enough fuel in the last pit stop. He might not be able to make it the whole way.
43, Sean Dupuis getting around the 0-2 of Kerry Mix for third. 41, Don Thompson Jr. shuffle back into the fifth place position as we look at the lead battle involving the 46 car of defending Western champion, that is Dan Shirley, and the defending Eastern champion, number 1, Pete Gibbons, as they are no more than about half a car length apart. And 33, Don Sales, who had been having a good run here this afternoon, has spun the car off on the inside of turn number 2. He'll get back onto the racetrack as the leaders go by. So no caution flag there. Dan Shirley, 46, still your race leader. Number 1, Pete Gibbons in second. And now the battle here will be for that fourth place position as 0-2, Kerry Mix, will get back around the 41 of Don Thompson Jr., putting him the fifth. Jim Lapsevich running in that sixth place position as we look at the UAP Napa field summary. In fact, that's a great three-way fight going on for fourth, fifth, and sixth as they move around the 33 car of Sales and number 2, Carl Haar, who works the bottom of the racetrack. 0-2, Kerry Mix holding that position. Meanwhile, back up front, it's still as close as it has been here for the last few laps. 46, Dan Shirley, your race leader, back to the line. Pete Gibbons right there in the second place position. Remember, Shirley did set a brand new qualifying record for CASCAR here at Calgary. And now the two drivers who are good friends off the racetrack, 41, Don Thompson Jr., and 25, Jim Lapsevich, running 5th and 6th.
Well, they're both chasing down the 02 car of Kerry Mix, who's suffering from a bad leg burn from his last race at Cayuga. This is a very gutsy drive by Mix in fourth spot, believe me, Pat.
Kerry Mix doing a great job, and again, that leg was very, very tender, but he has not missed a race. They just bandage it up, and Mixie having a great run in that fourth place position. Up front, things continue to heat up right there with the number 46 car of Dan Shirley and number 1 Gibbons. You saw the 93 of Alex Nagy. He's being shown in 10th, but 1 lap down. This is your race for that fifth place position. 41, Don Thompson Jr. drifting up a little bit high. Jim Lapsevich in the 25 car. He'll actually go to the Tim Hortons Children's Ranch, spend a couple of days there to change over his race car in preparation for the run on the road course at Edmonton. Up front, it's still Dan Shirley in the 46, leading number 1, Pete Gibbons. Then the gap back to the 10th place car of number 93, Alex Nagy. But again, Alex is running a lap down.
And that's Warren Raleigh, the suspension specialist with the Buck team. But the word is that Robin has coolant problems right now and is just trying to survive till the end to gather national points, Pat.
Well, we look at the race leader there for a moment. Number 46, Dan Shirley, ahead of Pete Gibbons. And on 25, Jimmy Lapsevich into the side of 41, Don Thompson Jr. He will spin him around as they came off at turn number 2. Don Thompson Jr. gets the car turned around, but right in front of the number 9 of Stevie Smith.
And with 10 laps to go, it looks like Thompson will not make the checkered flag. We're back with the final laps of the MOPAR 300 and another restart, which should be a sprint to the finish, Pat.
The Dodge Intrepid pace car heads for pit road. Dan Shirley will bring the field up to speed off of turn number 4. Lead lap cars up on the outside as they get the green flag into turn 1. Shirley, your leader. Here's Pete Gibbons on the outside. Gibbons will take the lead. Dan Shirley slowing off of turn number 2. There's 98 Dave Whitlock almost off the racetrack to get around.
Well, it's tough to say what happened to Shirley, but he could have run out of gas or had some kind of electrical problem to cause him to slow so dramatically.
Well, there he is, Craig. 46, Dan Shirley, trying to roll down pit road, and it looks like the car is not under any power. Number 1, Pete Gibbons, your race leader, comes off at turn 4. The 43 car of Sean Dupuy in second. There's your battle for third involving 02 Kerry Mix. And now DJ Kennington and some of his crew pushing that 46 car, trying to get him to his pits. Look at this battle for third. 02 Kerry Mix hanging on. 25 Jim Lapsovich works the inside. And now number 98 Dave Whitlock almost 3 wide going into turn number 1.
Oh, and there's the 66 car. He's going to be a factor in this race to the finish here.
Kerry Mix holding on to that third place position. Lapsovich, and here comes Whitlock right to the bottom of the racetrack. There's the white last lap flag. There's Dan Shirley. He certainly didn't take on any fuel, Todd.
That's right, Pat. Dan Shirley simply lost power. He quickly went to the backup ignition system, but it also failed. Dan then turned off all the switches he didn't need, and with a push from the crew, they got the car refired.
There is Dan Shirley back out there, but at the line, checkered flag, and the victory in the MOPAR 300 for Pete Gibbons.
And there's a happy Canadian Tire crew, and what an ending. Peter Gibbons, a surprise winner after Dan Shirley's electrics problem. And a good run for Sean Dupuy and Kerry Mix, and Dan Shirley, 2 laps down, he struggles into a disappointing 8th place. And we'll hear from the winner after this. We're back in Calgary where the MOPAR 300 winner Peter Gibbons is with Pat Gonzalez in the Choco Winner's Circle.
Pete Gibbons, you look fresh as a cucumber after 300 laps. You were there all day, did that late pit stop, and right at the end there, a 5-lap shootout. You were there for the win. Congratulations.
Thanks. This Canadian Tire car was just awesome, and all our crew worked all so good this week, and we're just so pumped up. We're getting back on the winning circle. We've had a lot of problems this year, and I want to thank Serengeti and Choco, and especially all my crew, and Denise and Neil Fair for helping us out in that race, and Steve that lets us work in his shop over here.
Well, Pete, a great way to start this CASCAR National Series. Congratulations here on the win.
Thanks a lot.
There's the Canadian Tire National point standings with Gibbons taking an 8-point lead over Dan Shirley. And look at that. 3 drivers are tied for 6, each with 282 points.
The MOPAR 300 is sponsored by Castrol Syntec, the active lubricant, MOPAR Performance Parts, and by STP. Get your car into STP shape. So Pete Gibbons moves on to the second of 4 races that will determine the CASCAR National Champion at the Edmonton City Center Airport Road Course. It should be a great race as these oval track specialists set up their late model stock cars to turn left and right in the CASCAR Castrol Super Series.